I also think we need to keep in mind that there is a big difference between running for office and an election, because like Bernie's doing two different things here, right? And like, so this goes back to the point I think that maybe he didn't consider like the real possibility that he'd win. You know, the a revolution, a political revolution, and people scoff at like, oh, revolution. I mean, we had the like sexual revolution. I mean, revolution is a term of art that people use, right? Doesn't mean it's gonna be all out like warfare in the streets type of thing. Like, so people need to like keep that in mind. But like these are completely different things. I don't know that you can actually have an effective political revolution. Some people have said, well, we see him as our leader. I don't see him as my leader. He is someone that has like raised the call to arms. I think amongst out of our ranks will come whatever leaders of this movement and stuff will be. I don't see that Bernie is going to be our figurehead. Bernie has still, like it or not, entrenched himself in saving the Democratic establishment, whether it's through a rebirth by infusing with all our new energy and power, or whatever the case may be. Like it's not very, it's revolutionary, but then it's not to some extent. Like if you're going to have a real revolution, it cannot happen within the system. It has to happen outside and consume it and then move forward.
Let me tell you why I disagree with that. It's because we've been talking about a revolution outside of the system forever. The revolution has always been expected to be outside of the system, but America is. Think of it this way: there's not an existential threat to America. There's nothing on the outside that is an existential threat to America. Even China's economy. China's economy is just as interdependent on ours. Like China could try to do a trade war with us, they'll screw themselves just as much as they'll screw us. There's no existential threat. The threat has to come from within. America can be destroyed by our own weight on ourselves. Nobody on the outside, because we'll all rally and destroy it on the outside. What I'm saying is, for these parties, the threat to the parties, if you look historically, and I wanted to talk about it tonight, every party that rose and fell, it fell from within. It wasn't a force from the outside that has destroyed not the Whigs, not the Democratic Republican Party, not the National Republican Party. None of those parties were destroyed from the outside. Every single one of them were destroyed from the inside. And so for me, I honestly believe if you want to revolutionize the two-party system, we have been neglecting the ability to do so from the inside, because everyone thinks that it has to be an outside game. But not a single party in American history has ever been destroyed from the outside. Every single one of them have been revolutionized from the inside.
I agree with you, but I also think it's a difference between, like a Trojan horse type of scenario where you like infiltrate something and take it over, and like seeing that someone really buys into the sanctity of a certain institution. And I really believe, like watching Bernie, like even when people point out the fact that he's ignored Jill Stein, not just his election cycle, but he's ignored the Greens repeatedly because he truly believes in working with the Democrats, right? And so like it's not that I appreciate Bernie Sanders and everything that he's done, but at the same time, I just think that Bernie Sanders, if people are looking to him as like a leader, it's only going to go but so far. We, the movement, will have to continue to push to really bring about the real change that needs to happen. I mean, it's not going to happen, if his ultimate goal is to become the president and the leader of this, messed up party and fix it. I mean, you can only fix a broken vase but so many times before it's useless. Mm-hmm. Like at some point you're going to have to do something different. And I just really think that while I do agree that trying to go within, and whether it's infiltrating, whatever we do, but at the same time, people who really buy into this idea and the sanctity of the two-party system, I really do not think that that's going to be our salvation either. Like we're going to have to push this a little bit further to get some other. I mean, if we really want change, we're going to have to topple the system one way or another, whether it's from inside, a combination inside, outside. I mean, we got to think outside the box. We can be in the box and still be able to think outside the box. It has to be both and. It can't be either or.
I think it absolutely has to be. I think it has to be from within, but it can't be from within and you think that you can make the party better. I think anybody who goes in and said, I'm going to make the Democratic Party better, I think you're a fool, and I agree with you on that much. I think if you go in and say, we have to get rid of these neoliberals, mm-hmm. We have to get out of this party that holds a vice grip on the left side of American politics and make this party to the left, not by trying to convince them to be better, but by giving them the boot with as much political power as we can muster. If people go in with that idea and that mindset and that strategy, then before you realize it, there would be a revolution. We've seen it in the last 5 years. You see how far to the right the Republican Party has
Yeah.
gone by virtue of the Tea Party. And for everyone, like I'm reading the chat room as it goes. Sometimes I pay attention to y'all and sometimes I don't, but I love all of you all the time. But I'm reading the chat room now and everybody's like, "Oh, Ben, you admire Hillary Clinton too much." No, I recognize effectiveness. I recognize the effectiveness of the Tea Party. I don't admire them, but I am not going to dismiss them as imbeciles, as idiots, and Neanderthals that need to be written off. I recognize that they did something that the Democrats need to do. They did something. They went in and took over their party and pushed it so far to the right that Ted Cruz seems reasonable. Let me say that again. They took over the Republican Party so much that Ted Cruz seems like the reasonable candidate.
Yes. Yes.
That
Okay.
is political efficiency that we need to not admire but recognize, model, and take the best of it and get rid of the worst of it and use it for progressivism.
If you look at your typical Tea Party politician and you compare them to right-wing people from 100 years ago, it is virtually the same. They use the same talking points. They talk about the same stuff. They're not anything new. They're not different. It's not a revolution. All it is a ploy to swing the activism back straight into the Republican Party. If you look at who they vote with the Republican Party. The effectiveness of that movement has been to make the Republican Party establishment stronger. Like they may make it seem like the Republican Party is going against this and going against that. No, the Tea Party is pretty much 100% in lockstep. They just want to go further, which is fine because the further you go to the right, the corporations, the rich, the wealthy, the right wingers, they all enjoy that anyway. That's not like something they don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
The money interests, the infrastructure of the Democratic Party, they want to resist going in a progressive direction, and that's the difference. It's not like this is their secret wet dream and we're finally getting it. They're like, yeah, I don't agree with them in public, but I do agree with them, blah, 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 blah. That's not what's happening here. They are openly against it from the onset, so that's why they're not even okay with the results.
You're right. You're absolutely 100% right in the difference because Republicans want that wet dream. They don't want to go as far as being publicly repugnant as the Tea Party, but they want the same corporatist, fascist wet dream. And Democrats don't want the left-leaning democratic socialist politics. They want the moderate center.
No, they want to go right too.
Center-right neoliberalism economic,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they don't. No, the DLC doesn't want to go as far right economically as the Tea Party, right? They might get close, but they're not going that far. But they're going far enough to be not progressive for sure. You're right about that assessment, but the politics involved was a grass. And when I say grass, I understand it was astroturf, but it started on the local level. It was an astroturf local level overtake of the party that couldn't be stopped because the Republican Party suffered from the same thing that the Democratic suffered from. Empty precincts, people missing, very few people in this caucus, very few people in that caucus. The big city had a big caucus. The small cities had neglect. And they capitalized on all the opportunities and took over. Those same opportunities are here in the Democratic Party. There's so many precincts that are neglected. There's so many captain seats that can be filled. There's so many county parties that need leadership, and it's as easy as taking candy from a baby if people show up and we're organized for a reason to do it. We're just not doing it